Right, welcome back for part 2 of the exclusive interview with Lions legend Steve Morison. We're going to sort of segue now to Steve's managerial career. Obviously, current manager at Sutton, has managed obviously Hornchurch and Cardiff in the Championship. But we want to talk a little bit about how, Steve, your management style has evolved and how you've used, the experience that you've had under, I've got a list of managers here, but to name a few, Graham Wesley, obviously Neil Harris, Kenny Jackett, Neil Warnock, Colin Calderwood. That's to name a few. There was tons of managers you worked under, but how did you kind of take bits of theirs and merge them into your kind of own managerial style, and how is that evolving too?
You take bits out of everything. You learn. You take training sessions. You take decisions that people make. But you try and. I've made a conscious effort to try and be myself, and to be things I didn't like. Make sure I don't do. I arguably don't play football the same way that I play football, which is just my prerogative. I think it's just all of that. There's little bits of knowledge everywhere. There's little bits of nuggets. There's people you still ring those people to speak to. One of my favourite to play under was Gary Speed. Rest in peace. And he was a legend, and he just had this aura, and he was just someone I really enjoyed. So Paul Lambert was really good for me personally. Just gave me like bags of confidence all the time. Kenny stuck with me, and he told me what I liked about Kenny is that he didn't say a lot, but when he did, it was really honest and real.
Yeah,
it was things that I needed. Graham Wesley sent me to a boxing gym to get my head punched off. Did it help me? I don't know, but it might have done. But he gave me a lot of confidence. Kept giving me the armband really young and stuff like that. He was always honest. If he said something, it would happen. So when I didn't move to Millwall, for example, in the Jan, he said, "You'll leave at the end of the season." And I did. There's bits you take from everyone, but obviously it's just trying to be as authentic as you can, and do what you believe in as well. Because I think you'd hate to have a career or have a short career in this job and not kind of do it your way as well.
Yeah, I guess it's the same with any job, right? You learn from the good and the bad experiences, and you learn what to do to copy and what not to, right? It reminds me of a story I know you've told before about Kenny Jackett, where was it a Wickham game? You sort of picked a defender up, and apologised or something. I mean, you're going to tell it better.
Yeah, it was just I come in. We played a game. And I come in train next day, and I got asked to go up to his office to watch this video. And I'm watching it, and I'm just looking at it going, I don't know what I'm looking at. And you're just like, look at what you do here. And I've gone up for a header, I defended had fallen on the floor. Game had carried on, but the camera's still on me. And I'm picking him up, like patting him on the back, checking he's all right. And he literally said to me, "You ever again, and you won't play for me." And I was just like, "Right, okay." But I wasn't, and then obviously I evolved into being that type of player. But yeah, he did lots of things. I missed the open goal at Staines in the FA Cup at the far post, and he got take me off like instantly. And I remember sitting down thinking on the bench, going, "That's it. That's me done." And then the Tuesday night, he starts me again. 94th minute winner against MK Dons, and that is the rest is history moment, because it literally was like, that was my Millwall career from then, wasn't it? It was just like 22 goals, playoff finals, wins, FA Cup runs, all off of that moment.
Yeah, and we're gonna. I mean, I've already sent you these, but we're going to talk about some of your. They're sort of my most memorable games of you. I mean, and you can compare whether you think that or not. But before we do, I just want to finish on your managerial career and just one more question around, like, how different is it to manage? You know, you've managed all sorts of the pyramid already, right? You know, and you played. Personally, I think you had quite a successful spell at Cardiff, given the amount of changes. Well, I think you signed 17 players. It was a big change, including Marlon. You had cup games against Liverpool, and I'm just interested to understand, like, how different is it to manage in those sort of, from the Championship down to, Hornchurch and whatever, from a formation perspective to man management. Like, how different is that experience?
It's different in terms of time, facilities, what you've got at your disposal. Look, you're every day in full-time football. Obviously, at some places you've got more than others in terms of facilities and stuff like that. And like Hornchurch, you go in there, it's a completely different thing, because it's like twice a week. People are working. Football's an extra thing. The other side of it is when you're in a professional game, it's people's lives. And then you've got work at the level I was at, or I'm at with Sutton now, and you can see quite clearly while some of these players are at that level, and it's the players they've got, because it's not the most important thing to them. It's like they're just doing it because they can. And the amount of questions and the amount of things I had to deal with, like, is it okay if I'm a bit late tomorrow because I've got to drop my little one at school? And it's like, no, it's not okay. Sort it out. Do you know what I mean? Like, This is your job. Like, it's not a jolly up. It's not fun. It's serious. Do you know what I mean? You come to work hard. But yeah, look, standing at Anfield as a manager, being a player, stood on the terraces and watched games there as well. Yeah, it's like nothing you can ever imagine. It's crazy. And then you're standing on the side at Concord Rangers for Hornchurch. It is completely different. There's no point lying about it. But the one thing it is, it's all about people. It's just learning how to deal with different types of people, understanding, it's completely different. But it's all great. It's all great learning. And I suppose one thing that I can draw on in those moments is that I played at all those levels as well as managed at them. So it wasn't going to manage at Liverpool in the Liverpool game. When you turn up, it's like, I've been here before. And then when I go to Hornchurch's ground and become the manager, and it's completely different, but it's like, it was fine for me when I was a player.
Mm-hmm.
How can we just make this the best environment that we can? So it's all experience, and as long as you're winning, you enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly, mate. And as long as you're enjoying it, then that's all that matters ultimately. And it's funny you talk about, I've been here before, because I remember it might have been the Wall Talk interview again, where you were talking about the Tottenham Cup game where we got battered, didn't we? But you talked about the fact that you were probably the only one in that change room was like almost not there for the day out. you talked about how that you'd played there before with Norwich. So you were like, right, well, we're here to turn up. And, I think you said when Harry Kane got taken off, that you thought you had half a chance, and then Son come on, I think, and bagged the hat trick. But but yeah, that was a really interesting one. So we're going to move on to talk about some of your sort of Millwall moments. And I think, for me, and the reason I loved your career at Millwall is because I could see from a fan's perspective how you'd evolved as a player and as a character for your two spells. I think, your first spell, for me, you were more of a roarer, playing on the shoulder, pacey, first-time finish sort of striker, which obviously deservedly got your move. And then when you come back, I felt like you'd mastered dark arts a little bit more. You played a slightly different role where you was doing the chopper role for Greggs. And I just always seem to remember you peeling onto a fullback and winning headers, and you just became a slightly different type of player. So I'd love to hear from you around how you felt you evolved as a player over those two different spells.
Yeah, look, I totally agree. I would, when I went to Millwall first time round, I'd arguably say I was on the shoulder. I was a runner. I'd score goals. But I remember the player final against Swindon. I just ran the two centre halves into the ground. I must have gone past them a million times, and we just didn't quite get that next goal that we needed. And we do that quite often. And then when I came back, I had Gregors doing that, and I had to find a way to be relevant and to learn. And I did learn. I just learned how to use. I learned how to use my body. I just learned how to nudge someone, how to win a header. I became a better target man. I'd arguably say I never was a target man until that period.
No.
And I just learned. I learned it, and there was something I was good at getting on the diag. We played to that, so it wasn't like I was really good at it. I was good at it in the end, but we worked on that. We worked at working the ball from one side, then getting it to Coots. I would then peel on who I needed to peel on, or it'd go to Hutch or Webby, whoever it might be, and I would go the other side. I would work on it, and Gregors would get off it, and we'd back it up from the midfield too. And we just found a way that worked, and people couldn't really deal with it. And yeah, it was the dark arts, and that you had more information. You could do more homework on people, because the game had evolved in that 4 or 5 years. I'd never even worn a GPS vest when I first went to Millwall. Then you go to Norwich, and then you wear one for the first time. Now everything's getting tracked, and now you're finding out it's just it all changed very, very quickly.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the things that I often say as well is from your second spell, I feel like we never replaced you. We I don't think we've had Matt Smith was in and out of the team. I'm talking about target man here, that sort of focal point you can play to up top.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've never really replaced that, and hopefully there's something we're going to address in the summer. But, how do you think, if you were playing now, do you think you'd fit in with a modern game?
I think yes, because I was a runner. And I was still a runner the second time. I just did it in different ways. And I suppose that's what's going out of the game, isn't it? It's because it's not as direct anymore. That player up top could be 6'2". They could be 6 foot, so it's kind of changing. But I feel like in the modern game, if people think of me in my last 2 years, they'd most probably say no. But if you think of me when I was 26, 27, when I joined Millwall, 1,000,000%.
Yeah, but again, that's testimony to the two types of roles that you played under the spells. And I want to talk about some of the I've written a list here, so I'm just going to read some of these games out and see your reaction to some of them. So you've already touched on the Stains and the MK Dons sort of that week. You scored, then I counted, you scored 21 goals from the 1st of December in that season. So that was a real good one. I also seem to remember a game in the Championship against QPR, and you destroyed Danny Shitu. I'll never forget this. The first goal, ball was knocked over the top, you did him for pace, and you first time sort of half volley, and then I think you won the penalty as well, and we beat them 2-0. I don't know if you remember that game.
Yeah, no, definitely, yeah.
2 volleys that stand out as well. Oxford away, I think was one of your favourite goals.
Yeah, no, yeah. I used to like a volley. Some of the lads hated it because I'd try it from anywhere.
Norwich?
Norwich was a good one. In the first season, I hit one in the last game of the season against Swindon. Went over and that come off the other side of the bar. I did some really. There was one on TV against Scunthorpe where I went past about 3 players and got to the line and clipped it in. I think one of my favourite ones was a lob I scored where I kind of took it on my chest and side foot volleyed it over the goalie. I think it was like Fleetwood or someone like that. Look, I scored some different types of goals. You can sometimes never beat the header at the back post. I think there was another one against QPR, things like that. And it was said. And then you got the volley in the playoff final. But yeah, there was just some great games and just ones that you. Sometimes some of the greatest games are ones you didn't even score in.
Well, let's talk about one of those because I don't think you scored in this game.
If you tell me, I'll tell you if I did or not.
The Leeds game.
Oh, 4-3.
Yeah.
No, I didn't score. I set up the first 2 though.
I just remember your celebration because obviously I know that you went there.
Sam just thrown at me and everything that day.
Because you were called the Shift there, right?
I wasn't very good at Leeds. No, I started off. To be fair, I went in. I think I scored on my debut. Then I didn't score. Then we went to Palace away, and I scored 2. And then it just wasn't good. I struggled with injury, and then the next season I got low. And then I got bought back under the David Hocker. They had all the different managers.
Weird time there.
And then me, I think it was me, Billy Sharp, Luke Murphy. We all got sent off to train with the kids every day. And then I think they were in the bottom 3. And then all of a sudden they went, right, we need to bring all the British players back. And then we went on and played and got them to 51 points and was safe. But I think I only scored. I scored 1 goal or 2 goals in that whole period. But I was playing well, and we're just putting shifts in. And then they named me that, and then I think we beat Millwall in that as well, 1-0 away. Alex Mowat scored a free kick.
Yeah.
At our place, sorry. And then I went back, and obviously they didn't like me, and I gave the famous. I'll put my Ibrahimovic suit on, and we'll deal with Leeds, and we beat them at home and away, didn't we? And then
I remember
the 4-3 one was because we were like 3-1 up. I got Cooper sent off. They went on a man down. No, they had a man down. I got Cooper sent off. And then second half, within 10 minutes, they were 3-0, weren't they?
Yeah.
And I remember wanting the centre circle to swallow me up because I was thinking, I look like the biggest tit ever here. I've given it the big all game. And then we've thrown it away. And then we scored the winner in the extra. And I remember us scoring the winner and running off in a different direction, just celebrating on being a lunatic. I said that was a really good moment. But then what was really good was when I got attacked at Woodall Services.
I've heard about this. Do you want to share a little bit about that if you don't mind?
I just we stopped at the service station on the way home, and it was quite funny. I was at Woodall, and these geezers started giving me a bit of stick, and I was just ignoring them. I was just getting my coffee.
Were they Leeds fans?
Yeah. And I was getting a coffee. I was with my mother-in-law, and we were paying for the coffees, and he kept chirping at me, and that I had noticed that he got his phone out. Oh, buddy, I'm going to die.
That memory.
Yes, that memory. I'd now noticed he'd got his phone out, and he was obviously trying to entice me to have a pop. And then he had a pop at my mother-in-law. So then I said, right, that's enough now. You've gone too far. I said, if we want to go and have a chat about it, let's go outside. Phone down. So as we were walking out, I always remember it because Jed Wallace texted me about. So, by the way, I then left Woodall, right?
All right.
Jed Wallace pulls up at the service station and he rings me and said, he went, Morrow, what have you done? He said, there's police and all sorts in the service station. And I went, I ain't done anything. I've just left. And what had happened was, as I'm walking out and this geezer's like, me and this guy are kicking off, not like all just like verbal. The Millwall fan coach pulled up, didn't it?
Nice.
So they've come walking up the steps and seen me, and they've gone, "What's going on?" And these two have been chirping and getting on, and then they've had a pop at my mother-in-law who comes to all the games who they knew as well. And they went, "Don't worry about it, Steve. See you later. We'll take care of it." So I went up and got in the car, and then Jed rings me about half an hour later and says, "What have you done?" All I've heard was that 1 minute you was here, next minute you've left. So it was quite funny.
We'll see, Steve. You know, at the end of the day, the Millwall fans have always got your back.
They have. They turned up at the right time. It's perfect. I don't know what I was going to do. I've never had a fight in my life.
So, I mean, again, it shows you though, like the way you play on the pitch, you would never you'd think you would be right up for that. So
not my street at all.
So I now want to talk a little bit about like the impact that one player can have on a team's fortunes. Going to talk a bit about some players that you played with and the impact that they've had, players that are still potentially at the club. But I do want to start on just sort of going back in time and saying, you know, that first season when we got promoted back in the Championship, and we were doing really well. You know, I remember going to Burton away. I'm sure I did, and we won 1-0. We went on this mad run, and we'd signed Tim Cahill at this period as well, and he didn't play much, right? But how much of a was it more of a PR thing, or you know, how much just his presence in the changing room? How much did that play a part in some of that good run?
The biggest thing in that run was Marshy. He come and he was just different class, wasn't he? He was just like.
What happened to him?
He's done a few podcasts from what I've heard.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, in pubs.
No, he was different class, and obviously Tim come in. I think it was great for the fans. From the players' point of view, we were on a run, and it was just like he just added to the group. He was quality in training. He'd come on. I think he'd always come on with 10 minutes to game and get booked, and then Millwall fans would go crazy, and then it just all added to it. But yeah, no, he was good. It was great for him to. It was near enough his last club, wasn't it? To come back to where it started for him was great, and Yeah, I think I said the fans loved it, and he played his part in what was a very close. I think it was 16 games unbeaten or something, weren't we?
Yeah, it was crazy.
And we just fell short. Yeah.
Could he still play? Like, because one of the things I wondered was about this whole, not to discredit, one of the best players I've ever seen put the shirt on, but was it a thing to build camaraderie with the fans and with a dressing room, or actually did they actually bring him back to initially to actually play a part? He couldn't get in the team because we were playing so well, but like, I guess my question is, could he still play?
Yeah, we're not really. I'm not sure. We heard him that he was coming back. You don't really know. He was always just like, oh yeah, whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he did come back, but then as you time, it's like you had Jed on the one side, Marsh on the other side, me and Gregor's midfield was pretty much sorted. So it was, as you said, it was
where.
So maybe initially it was coming. Maybe psychologically we all upped our game. You never actually know, because at the time we were just in the flow. He used to come. He used to come to Thursday Club, so it was fine.
That's all that matters. Yeah,
all that matters. He never used to pay though. That was upsetting.
Oh really? I'm sure he's got a fair few quid. That's.
I know. I was hoping he was going to pick up the old tab.
Yeah, you'd like to think so. So, and then you've got players that are either have just recently left the club or are still there now. So I'll read out some names. Obviously, we mentioned Jed, Sabs, Hutchie, TC, Coops. To me, along with yourself, these are all Millwall type players, and I mean that with a great deal of respect. In the sense, I think that all of those players understand what it means to play for Millwall, and I think it's. I'm sure you've been with some players where you sink or swim, right? It's one of those clubs, I think, where you either do well or you don't. But how important is it to have characters like that at the club?
Yeah, it's really important. I think if you think of some people, you look at like when Coops first come in, like as big as a guy he is, he was like, he wouldn't say anything on a football pitch. He was always quite funny because he was always a bit dumb. He used to just to come out with like, we used to ask him questions knowing that he'd get the answer wrong, and it'd give us a laugh. And then Hutchie was really quiet. And then obviously once kind of I leave and someone else leaves, then obviously they grow a voice. It's just kind of like the continuous and I think these people are really important. I take it all the way back to my first spell where there was so many voices and I wouldn't say a word. Chops wouldn't say a word. Like James Henry wouldn't say a word. Chris Hackett wouldn't say a word. Jimmy, I don't think I've ever heard Jimmy speak. And we didn't need to because everyone else spoke for us. And then when you come back second time or third time, whichever, it's now you're that voice.
Yeah.
And then the other people are quiet, and then you kind of live, and then all of a sudden you find out that Hutch, Coops, Sad are now the voices in the dressing room. So it's just those characters and have to find yourself, and it is sink or swim. I think there's plenty of players that play for Millwall and not done it, and you look at them elsewhere and they've had great times.
Lewis Graben is the first name that comes to mind when you say that.
Yeah, I said phenomenal. Like, he was a really good player, and he did okay at times, and then to leave, go to Bournemouth and do what he did, and to Nottingham Forest was, you have to tip your hat to him, didn't you?
Yeah. I feel like he always enjoyed coming back and playing against us, but
he often didn't.
No,
you look back, he often didn't.
We beat him whoever he was playing a lot of the time, did we? You got a good memory.
He never used to play. He never used to come back and play at the Den.
Yeah, he was
He'd always get
mysteriously
an
ill.
injury.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder why. Maybe he was doing a Ben Chilwell, which is another well-documented story from you, Steve.
He won't admit it.
The, I want to now talk about a current player at Millwall in Zian Fleming. And draw some sort of parallels on some things that happened with you in your career. So, I think you've openly said that, when Norwich came knocking on, I think Notts Forest originally as well, if I remember rightly, for your services, you wanted to go, right? And you said that, and I don't blame you. I think, it's a job, right? And you've openly said you didn't have necessarily the loyalty that you do now to the club at that stage. So to me, logical, makes sense. We'd all do it. We're all human. But it's also very well documented that Zian Fleming had offers last season over the summer, some big offers to go and play in the Premier League, which for one reason or another didn't happen. How hard is it to stay focused when that happens, Because he did have a little bit of a dip in form. So I'm just trying to draw on your experience to maybe help fans understand as to maybe why he didn't quite have the same season.
Yeah, look, it is difficult. When it happened to me, it was it actually worked out better for me because at the time the club I wanted to go to was Nottingham Forest,
Right,
and that's because I think they were in the playoffs and Norwich wasn't. It actually ended up flipping full circle and Norwich got automatically promoted. But to be honest, and then we got to the season and I thought, they're not going to come back for me now, then that move's dead. And luckily they did. But let's say there's loads of factors in it. At the time, you're getting the phone call to say they want you and they're offering you, I was on a very small wage at the time in the scheme of things. And they're offering like 5-6 times what you're on. And you're thinking like, are you going to give me that? No.
see you later.
Well, I've only been here 18 months. I've scored 15 goals by Christmas or whatever it was in the Champ, which I never thought I would do. And now I've got an opportunity to go to the next level in the pay structure. Like, it's something that I wanted to do. Found the bit that I found the hardest was that that last 6 months, every time I had a bad game, it was because I didn't want to be there. And that wasn't the case.
In the fans' eyes, you mean?
Yeah, and that would be very vocal. And I'd be like, I've just had a bad game. And then we win the next game and it's like, oh, he does want to be here. It was just like,
yeah.
I don't know Fleming. I don't know that situation. I know that obviously there was an offer on the table from Burnley. And for whatever reason, it didn't happen. I would arguably say he was always going to struggle to match the season previously.
Fair, yep.
And that's obviously the difficulty of it. So people look at it or analyse it. He had a season where everything he kind of did worked, scored. This season has been a struggle. Not just for him though, the whole team.
Yeah.
So it's difficult. Everyone's going to draw comparisons of it, and I suppose if you ask him and take Millwall out of it, he'd may probably say, "I should have pushed harder to go," because he may never get the opportunity again.
Yeah.
He may be back in the Champ now if he went to Burnley, for example, but he's missed out on that opportunity now. But I suppose everyone takes a slightly different approach. I know it's well documented. When I did leave Millwall in the end, it still wasn't easy to do. I had to hand a transfer request in. I had to do all this kind of stuff to try to make it look like to the fans that I was the bad guy. I was only doing what I was told to do.
Yeah.
To try and make the move happen. And I was only gone for a little while anyway.
No. Do you know what? It always blows my mind, right? Where I have to be careful what I say, just in case my employers are listening. But like, ultimately, I think fans look at it through their own eyes, right? Like, I would play for Millwall for nothing, right? But ultimately, especially after only being there 18 months, you're not a fan. If someone comes and offers me 5 times the salary, how do you turn that down? So I always wonder, like, how people ever have an opinion that, I can't believe he wants to do that or whatever.
Because you're a fan, aren't you? Like, it's not work.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like I go home and go and do, like, I don't know, like a plumbing job. Like, that's like, it's not just an extracurricular activity that you do, which is like what a football fan does. Is the extracurricular activity is going to watch the game. So you couldn't say to a Millwall fan or a Liverpool fan or an Arsenal fan, if I give you £100 a week extra on top of your season ticket, do you want to go and watch Arsenal? Or do you want to go and watch Chelsea? It doesn't kind of work like that.
No.
But as a plumber, electrician, whoever it might be, football player, if the firm down the road offers you a hell of a lot more money to do the same job, but as I said, everyone knows it deep down that they'll do the same thing. But
yeah, maybe don't want to admit it.
It is what it is, isn't it? Yeah.
And it works both ways, right? Because when I think back to your move, I think we paid 130,000 for you, and we sold you for 2.8 million, and we did that because we sold you at the right time. Arguably the right time. We've not always done that. I think it's fair to say. We could have got money for Jed. We didn't. We could have got a considerable amount for Zian Fleming last summer. We didn't. I would imagine if he does go this summer, it would probably be for half of what we possibly could have got last season. So,
but that a lot of the time that comes down to John, because we're not reliant on the money, because we're a sustainable football club. So he's not reliant on. And I had this conversation with him many times. It was like, I don't need that money from Jed. I'd rather have Jed.
Yeah.
So until Jed tells me I want me to leave, then he's happy to rather watch Jed play and help the team, which he did very, very well. Yeah. And even when people knew he was going to kind of leave the year, he still performed. And I think that was more of why that happened rather than bad decisions, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And it, again, just shows you the man that John was, that he put the club first and over ultimately more money, which not all, let's be honest, not all owners would they? So
yeah, of course. Yeah.
One last question before we sort of end up with our quickfire round, Steve. What's your view on what you think Millwall need over the summer in terms of players?
Look, I think obviously freshen up the group. Need some fresher faces. Chopper's been talking about the playing style evolving over time. Won't be instant. Then that just becomes players to evolve that style. I think they need a goal scorer.
Yeah.
And it doesn't everybody, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I've said there's been a lot of change there. Obviously, the person who knows the football club best is still there, which is Chaps. So that's a massive plus point. It will be an interesting watch how they go through this period. So they've lost some really good people, and it'll just be interesting. I don't know the people who are in now, so I can't comment on those people. But what I do know is that Chopper and Livers and that will be doing everything they can to get the right people through the door to try and take the club forward.
Yeah. No, I think you're right, and I as a fan, I can't think of anyone better to help navigate through, let's be honest, a period of uncertainty with what's happened, with Matty over the summer, but also some of the personnel change within the club, like Steve Kavanagh, Alex Aldridge, Billy Taylor, they were part of the furniture, if you like, for a long time, and for whatever reason, Jimmy's decided to go in a different direction. And if there's one man that you can entrust that will do everything he can to stabilise the club and take it to the next level, it's Chopper, isn't it? So
sure.
really pleased with that. So cool. All right. Well, Steve, we're gonna end with a quick fire round. So gonna ask you a bunch of questions and just sort of want well, take as long as you want, but the idea is it's quick. I don't mind. We go all night, mate. So the first question is, who's the best manager you've worked under?
Best manager I've worked under, I would say Paul Lambert.
Paul Lambert, okay, interesting. He's not in football anymore, is he? He's not managing anymore, is he? No. Who's the best player you've played with?
Gareth Bale.
Pretty good player, to be fair.
Yeah.
Okay, who's the best player you played with at Millwall?
Best player I played with Millwall? That's a really difficult question. I suppose the best player for everything, I'd say Jed. But if you're talking about the best footballer, you're talking about Willow was excellent.
Yeah.
Best partner I ever had was Gregor's Chopper. Always hated playing against our defenders.
Yeah.
Never wanted to play against Robbo and Wardy and people like that. Coops. But just for all-round ability at Millwall, I'd say Jed was top draw.
Yeah, I'd love him back tomorrow, but I think he's fairly happy at West Brom. Who's your best friend in football?
Best friend in football, I'd say my mate, my assistant manager now, and I played with him when I was in non-league, Bishop Stortford.
All right.
I met him then, and we've been friends ever since. Even though he hasn't. Obviously, people that I've played with in my professional career, I still speak to Webby. I still speak to Jed. So those two, maybe within football, that are the two that I still speak to on a regular basis, and we speak to each other if we need advice. And Jed, I'm always there for, and Byron if they need any. Byron now just rings me and wants to know help with his coaching courses, and Jed just wants to ring me to ask me questions.
Well, obviously Webby's now back in the Football League, isn't he, as well? So
yeah, he is.
Yeah. What's one motto that you live your life by?
No excuses.
I love that. We're more alike than just the grey hair, Steve. I think that's very similar to mine, mate.
Same hairstyle as well.
Mate, I went grey when I was like 24. No, yeah.
I was 20. I was mid-20s, but I had no hair. I shaved it all off, didn't I? So.
Yeah, I remember when you come back on the loan spell, you went bald, and I was like, what was he doing? What was he doing? It made sense when it started to grow back. I dyed mine for years, and then the missus was just like, what are you doing? Just embrace it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, side note, who's your favourite footballer of all time?
Growing up, I loved
Say that again, sorry?
Alan Shearer. I loved
Alan Shearer. What a player. Yeah.
He was my favourite.
Great player. Tell me a club that you enjoyed playing against the most.
Enjoyed playing against them. Do you know what I really enjoyed playing against? Nottingham Forest.
Why is that?
always scored against them.
Which is why they wanted to sign you.
Yeah, always scored against them. Always liked playing at the City ground. It's obviously a great ground.
Yeah.
And I just seemed to always score against Nottingham Forest, home or away. Didn't matter. Yeah, it was just one of those teams, I suppose, that I always liked playing against. Yeah, and the other one, obviously, we haven't only played them a couple of times because we've never seen them since, which is Charlton.
No. Oh, you scored in the famous 4-4, didn't you?
I scored both ends of the pitch.
Yes, you did.
And the one at home, I scored another 2. I think we played them 4 times in those 2 years. And I definitely scored like 4 or 5 goals. So yeah, it was just one of those teams that, again, always like playing against, but obviously we haven't seen them for a few years.
No. Although I think they're just signed Alex Mitchell off of us. I think they're doing some good business. So we'll see.
See how they go.
Yeah. Always a pleasure to play them. 6 points easily. Who's the biggest? I've worded this correctly. Who's the biggest Wally that you've met in football?
Biggest one. Are we talking about someone who's stupid or just someone I don't like?
Interpret how you want, but I guess probably the latter.
There's too many.
I love that.
Yeah, look, there's. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head I didn't like. Yeah, I didn't. Me and Scott McDonald didn't get on too well when I was at Millwall under Steve Lomas and Ian Holloway, but he's a nice enough guy. But we just didn't get on the pitch. There's no one. There's too many people that I've called Wallies in my career.
Yeah. Say no more. Say no more. What was your fondest Mill memory?
Fondest Mill memory? Yeah, the playoff final. Like, as much as what went on, it's the one thing that you always get reminded of. It's the one thing that always gives you goosebumps. And yeah, it was first time we got promoted as well. There's still great memories, but obviously, like Roy the Rovers kind of story when you're thinking,
yeah,
last minute win the game, captain. It was, it was a great moment.
You can't write it. Well, if you wrote it to win 1-0 in the last few minutes, that's how you'd write it, right?
Yeah,
it was just brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. Maybe this answers the next question. I don't know, but which spell did you enjoy the most? Because obviously we talked about how you played different roles in the first spell and the second spell. Which one did you enjoy the most?
Joe, that's really difficult, because I think I scored a lot more goals in a shorter time the first time. But then the second time, I think I scored 19 2 seasons in a row and then didn't really score as many. But they kind of like the seasons like mimicked each other, if you know what I mean. Like got promoted, nearly got promoted, then got promoted, had a great year in the Champ. I think both spells equally, just for different reasons.
Yeah.
Obviously, the second time, I had a lot more responsibility. I was a lot bigger personality. Played some excellent football, especially in League One. Like lots of important goals. Had a great partnership with someone, and I just think both those spells was part of a really good Millwall team.
So and good dressing rooms, as you've said before as well. Yeah. I'm going to change this question slightly to what I sent you. I hope you don't mind.
No.
Would you ever come back to Millwall in some capacity? And have you ever applied to come back?
Yeah, I would, 100%. Have I ever applied? never applied in an official capacity. No. Always had relationships where if I wanted, I would always have the conversation where I'd say, look, if you're interested, you know my number. But I've never gone through the process. I feel like Millwall maybe it's changed now because obviously the people who are in the football club are different. For me, I feel like it's a job that I don't need to apply for. They kind of know me. They'd see what I was doing. If they thought what I was doing was good, then they know I'd love to have that conversation if it ever happens. So, yeah, what will be will be. I've got to do a good job where I am first, and see what happens in the future.
Yeah, well, I think I speak on behalf of most of the Millwall fans to say I think we would absolutely love to have you back in some capacity, mate, whatever that will be. And final question, just to keep up with the recency of events. How are England going to do in the Euros? And if you don't think we'll win it, who's going to win it?
I think we'll get to the semi-final. I think England will get to the semi-final and they'll lose on penalties.
Shock.
Yeah, let's just stick with tradition. I think Spain are going to win it. But I think it'd be great for football if someone else did outside of France and Spain and Germany. So
anyone else?
Anyone else, but I'd love to win it because I'd love to see Ronaldo win it, and he could retire with the trophy under his arm. That'd be good fun.
Yeah,
blood and tears.
Again,
this time for the right reasons.
Yeah, no, definitely. Right, well, anything before we close out that you want to sort of final words to say to the Millwall fans or anything at all, Steve?
Nothing outside of look. I love playing for the football club, and my happiest time as a player. And thanks for your support.
Love it, Steve. Yes, no, thank you, Steve, and thank you so much, as I said at the start, for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this. I really do appreciate it. So yeah, thank you very much for that.
No problem.
Thanks, Steve. Cheers.